Hey everybody, and welcome to my final thoughts on Final Girl. I know I just left you on a cliffhanger in the run-through, so please know that that is for dramatic effect because this game is so dramatic, this game is so thematic, and there's nothing more exciting than waiting for that showdown between you and the killer. So some people might call me a monster. I would like to remind you that Hans the Butcher is the killer in this scenario, so maybe he's the monster here, not me. But let me tell you, this game is so fun. And I think the core quality of this game is that there's this really fine balance between dice and cards. And that's just so exciting. So you've got dice here that resolve your card actions, but then the dice might ask you to sacrifice cards too, and your cards are your life. There are free cards, essentially, that cost you no time. They are your basic cards, but if you spend them all at once, then they all have to go into this cooldown phase. And then the next round, you don't have access to any of those cards. You have to wait before you get them back. And if you sacrifice cards to get successes on your dice, you're losing a card, and that card might be, a value 4, which means that you are now putting this card back into the pile, and you have to rebuy it. So this is the most unique deck builder. I mean, it's a sneaky deck builder because you're building your deck and spending your cards. You get back your basic cards, but you don't get back the cards that you actually spend. And so you have to spend time to get them. And then if you just throw it away, it's like you wasted your time. And, there's always that moment in a horror film where you feel like maybe somebody's been wasting their time. So again, it just thematically fits so well. So if that's not something that appeals to you, the idea that there are these really strong consequences for dice rolls, that if you don't just get a success, which is a 5 or 6, you have to pay some. But what I think it does is it gives you choice. It's not just I succeeded or failed at whatever I tried to do, and therefore I can do nothing to mitigate it. No. You can. You can mitigate it. But do you want to mitigate it? Do you want the outcome you're looking for? Because it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you with your cards. And that's why having certain cards like Close Call are really valuable because they allow you to re-roll your dice. Now, some of it costs you time, and so time is money, money is life, cards are life. It's all connected in this really interesting way. And that's the strongest feature of this game. So I just think that it's a phenomenally smart game that amps up the theme, amps up the excitement, amps up all the horror film tropes, and every single game I play is different. I can't even tell you. I play with Lori and Hans. I could play with Ryko. Look at Ryko. She comes with the Camp Happy Trails, so I can play either Lori or Ryko. In my run-through, I played Lori. Well, she can be another character that I play with that has a different special Final Girl ability. But I'm playing Hans the Butcher at Camp Happy Trails, and no matter how many times I play it, every single game is different. I am drawing different terror cards. I'm drawing different event cards. I am rolling my dice, obviously, differently. I'm choosing different cards based on where I am on the map and what's happening. Are the campers panicking from place to place? And so every game is different, and every game feels like a horror film. And I keep coming back to that experience because, the luck might be too much for you. You might say, there's just way too much out of my hands. Well, guess what? That's a horror film. It's out of your hands. You never know. You don't know if you're going to make it. You don't know if your attempt is going to succeed. And there's just so much thrill to it. And it just works incredibly well as a story. So if you're ready to play a game and lose, that you should be ready to lose. I think I've maybe lost a little bit more than I've won. But that kind of makes those wins really exciting when you're just like, I just tromped him. It was just phenomenal. And you just recount all the stories of what happened and who went where and what did what. But here's where I think the film aspect of this game experience really coalesces. Your final girl and Hans both have a final twist, and this final twist is secret. This is a totally unknown thing that only happens when either the final girl or both Hans go down to 0 hit count, which means they got hurt way too many times and they're down to 0. They essentially die, and the whole game is won if you kill Hans the Butcher before he kills you, or it's lost if he kills you first. That's the whole goal of the game. So in this final phase where, let's say, Lori loses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hit points, there was this little disc up here. This 5th hit point has a secret amount of hearts underneath it, which could be 0, 1, 2, or 3. But so does Hans, because of course Hans can come back too. And I really like this feature because it just adds that final moment to your gameplay where you see the final girl essentially get that stab right here, and you're like, and there's no way she's gonna come back, and it'll like, she fades, and then she's like, and then she like takes a breath and she stands up and she like goes after the baddie. That is in this film. It's in this game. It feels so it's just filmic. It's so thematic. It's just, I feel like I'm in a movie. So let's find out in this game if I would have revived, if I would have come back, if I would have been able to fight another day. I would have 3 hearts. Oh my gosh. And would Hans have been able to come back and fight once I knocked him down to his 12th hit point? Oh gosh, he would have, the little stinker. He would have come back with a vengeance, with his a sledgehammer massacre, and he would have, absolutely taken me out. So this has replayability, variability, unpredictability, and if that sounds intimidating to you or frustrating to you, that you got to know that. You got to be okay with that. And if that doesn't appeal to you, then I would definitely shy away from this. But I think that's its strength. I really do. It just plays into the horror theme so well, and it's just the coolest mix of dice and cards and how they work in tandem with each other. And every game is different. And here's the coolest thing. There are all these other scenarios that you can play with Final Girl. You've got Carnage at the Carnival, Nightmare on Maple Lane, Slaughter in the Groves, and The Haunting of Creech Manor. And each of these boxes you play with the base box set, and it gives you all new events, items, terror, fighters like the baddies that show up, and of course, new final girls. So this has so much. I mean, you could spend all summer having like a horror film fest, but instead having a final girl game fest. And I could see it. It sounds amazing. I will see you there in our solo games of Final Girl. Thank you so much for joining me for my final thoughts of Final Girl. I'll see you next time.